everyone. Thank you for being patient with us while we adjust to some new technology on our dais today, and it's taking us a little longer than usual to get situated, but welcome. Thank you all for being here. Is everyone ready to get started? All right. I would like to call to order the Tuesday, February 28th Seminole County Board of County Commissioners meeting at 9 a.m. Today we have, bringing the invocation to us, the Reverend Dr. Robert Melhorn from Integrity Church. If you would all please rise.
Good morning, everyone. It's indeed an honor to be here. Let's be in prayer. Holy One, by your grace, you have ordained that there should be civic government, that there would be indeed order in our world, and a safe space would be created for your work to be done. And so, Father, we ask your blessing upon our leaders, upon the commissioners, upon the city manager. We ask your blessing upon all who work for the county and for all the employees across the expanse of this great part of your creation. Holy One, as we come before you this morning, we also ask that you would guide our deliberations. The complexities and the issues are great, and we live in such a complicated and a challenging world. But your wisdom is sufficient for each of our needs. And so, our God, we would ask you this morning that you would be present among us, that your Spirit would give direction and would give courage, and that all we would say and do, not only the words we speak, but the spirit in which we say them, would bring glory and honor to your great name. We pray in the strong name that you grant to us. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Melhorn. Before we move on to awards and presentations, there were a couple of items distributed that were modifying the agenda. And Mr. County Manager, welcome,
Yes.
by the way. Do you have any modifications for us?
Yes, ma'am, Madam Chairman and Commissioners. Item number 7, staff is going to pull that item for further research, and we'll get back to you on that one. And then also, it's in the afternoon, item number 33 under Commissioner Delari's report. Would you like me to go ahead and make that modification now? The animal abuse registry, we're going to pull that one. The legislature is actually looking at that this session, and so we'll come back to that.
Great. Thank you very much.
That's it. Thank you.
Awesome. Our first proclamation is the Veteran of the Month, and it's going to be presented by Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's with great honor to present this proclamation to Seminole County, but to a dear friend. I've known Danny, it's got to be at least 30-plus years. Your leadership in the community of Oviedo has been exemplary. I mean, you've been at so many different levels, and your family has done so many different things in the Oviedo area and the surrounding areas. So it's, with that, it's fitting, Madam Chair, that a proclamation of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners recognizing United States Air Force Senior Technical Sergeant Danny McKinney for his outstanding service to the United States and Seminole County. Whereas the brave men and women of our Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, and Space Force has put their future and even their lives on the line of valiant defense of our nation, and whereas many service members, the sacrifice have ended in permanent or injury and death, yet the spirit remains in continued preservation of our freedom and the promise of liberty. And whereas there are more than 30,000 living veterans in Seminole County who serves our nation in time of peace and war throughout their service and kept Americans strong. And whereas Technical Sergeant Danny McKinney enlisted in the Air Force in July of 1978 and officially retired in December of 1998, accumulating over 20 years of military service. And whereas Technical Sergeant Danny McKinney served in the command post while serving during the Gulf War era. The highlight of his career was 3 Air Force Commendation Medals he earned for superior performance of his duty. He also earned various other medals during his Joint Service Achievement Medal and the Air Force Good Conduct Medal with 5 devices. And whereas Technical Sergeant Denny McKinney retired from the Air Force and began work for Seminole County as a 911 operator until he retired again in 2015. While active in his community, he served as the president of Oviedo Citizens in Action from 2001 to 2011 and treasurer since 2015. He is currently involved in the Improvement Oviedo Neighborhood Committee and is involved with Mission Baptist Church in Oviedo. And whereas Technical Sergeant Denny McKinney has brought great credit and distinction upon himself, the United States Air Force, and Seminole County. Now therefore proclaimed that we, the Board of County Commissioners of Seminole County, Florida, express our gratitude, admiration, and respect for Technical Sergeant Denny McKinney for his outstanding service to the United States Air Force and the residents of Seminole County. Be it further proclaimed that this proclamation be presented to Technical Sergeant Denny McKinney, along with our sincere congratulations and recognition as Seminole County Veteran of the Month, adopted this 28th day of February, 2023.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All of those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Would you like to come down and receive the proclamation and take a picture with the board?
If we could just take one picture with him, we want to bring up his family afterwards.
Everyone set? On my count, in 3, 2, 1.
So we'll bring in the mayor and some other people in there.
On my count, in 3, 2, 1.
Mayor, can we have to come down and the post folks as well as the leaders of the action?
All right, on my count, in 3, 2, 1.
Let's just get back to the seats.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to just first start off by giving an honor to God. And I also want to thank the chamber, the board, for selecting me for the Veteran of the Month. Just a little secret, I was born here in this hospital.
Oh, wow.
And so the great thing about today, I won't get spanked on my butt.
That's a good thing.
I will be very, very brief. I just want to thank everyone. I grew up here. I grew up in Midway. I went to Seminole High School. After I graduated from Seminole High School, I enlisted in the Air Force, and that happened to be the best thing that I ever could have done in my life. The places I've gone in the Air Force and the people that I've met in the Air Force, and to stand strong for this country, which I love. I display a flag outside of our home, and anytime there's an opportunity for me to strengthen this country, I'm there. So again, I just want to say thank you for honoring me today. I don't know why I deserve it. I did it because it was something I wanted to do. So thank you all.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, go Knowles.
Yes, yes, go Knowles. That's Seminole High School, Sanford Seminoles, not, yeah. For any Gators who might be offended, that was the Knowles she was referring to. Oh, gosh. Our next proclamation is going to be presented by Commissioner Herr.
I can't believe that needed to be explained.
Well, I just thought it might not be a bad idea.
District 5 high school of choice. I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for that one, too. So I'm going to read the following proclamation and give a little bit of just a personal take on this, and that is that this is a proclamation recognizing women in construction, and we do still represent 50% of the population, but often are very underrepresented in the C-suite, in the boardrooms, and in the trades, and in some of the STEM businesses. And so it is organizations like this that continue to create a good representation in the community and encourage our younger girls to go into something different. And so with that as background, I read the following proclamation of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming the week of March 5th through 11th, 2023 as Women in Construction Week in Seminole County, Florida. Whereas the National Association of Women in Construction, NAWIC, Greater Orlando Chapter Number 73, has distinguished itself for 49 years as the voice of women in construction in Central Florida, and whereas the work done by the NAWIC Greater Orlando Chapter Number 73 has been Seminole County and Central Florida through community development and educational programs, and whereas the NAWIC Greater Orlando Chapter Number 73 has unceasingly promoted the employment and advancement of women in the construction industry, and whereas the construction community, represented by NAWIC Greater Orlando Chapter Number 73, has been a driving force in fostering community development through renovation and beautification projects, promotion of skilled trade careers, and a positive vision of the future. And whereas the NAWIC Greater Orlando Chapter Number 73 has sought to achieve successful results for Seminole County and the surrounding areas in a cooperative spirit with other organizations. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners does hereby recognize the NAWIC Greater Orlando Chapter Number 73 and its many dedicated volunteers for its steadfast work on behalf and in support of women in construction, and do proudly proclaim the week of March 5th through the 11th, 2023 as Women in Construction Week. Be it
In a minute.
Hold that thought. Be it further proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Seminole County, Florida, that this proclamation be spread upon the official minutes by the Clerk of the Circuit Court and for the County of Seminole. Adopted this 28th day of February 2023. Now, Lee.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
And I do believe that we have two ladies, Jennifer Klein and Kristen Andreasen from the National Association of Women in Construction, here to accept the award. You can clap for this, too.
Can you do me a favor? Can you take a picture just of two of us? Most people don't know that Jennifer and I worked together for years at Walt Disney World.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
My name is Kristen Andreessen. I'm actually the current president of the Greater Orlando chapter of NAWIC. We just would like to thank you so much for this proclamation today. As Mrs. Hirsch said, this is just an incredible organization that we strive to continue to build the involvement of women in such a huge industry within not just our county, our surrounding counties, but also the entire world. So thank you so much for this, and let's just continue to build this industry as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy, may I say something?
Absolutely.
Just on a caveat, Jennifer Klein and I worked, how many years together did we work, Jennifer?
I mean, we've known each other for 20 years.
So it's got to be at least 20 years we worked together,
Yeah.
on and off. A true professional, a true person that whenever I ran into issues, she was one of the few people that I would go to, like, Jennifer, please help me. And time again, I don't know how she would do it, and she would just pull things together and made all of us look good. Her and I worked together for years at Walt Disney World, both in the office and in the field. She's one of the few people that, no matter how difficult the task was, she never said, wow, that's going to be difficult. She always said, when do you need it by? And every time I gave her a time, it was always done ahead of time, and it was always correct. And there was many times, and most people didn't realize this, that when other people get things wrong, I would just give it to Jennifer or tell them, please go to Jennifer, she'll correct this, or she'll explain to you how to do it. And time again, she was truly, truly amazing, and I truly miss working with you. Thank you, Jennifer.
Very sweet.
Thank you, ladies.
Our next proclamation is going to be presented by Commissioner Zembauer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's with great pleasure, coming from a farming family myself, to read this proclamation into the record. Proclamation of the Seminole County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming March 19 through 26, 2023 as National Agriculture Week in Seminole County, Florida. Whereas since our earliest days as a nation, farmers have tilled the soil of this great land, feeding their families, other citizens, and people around the world. Over the years, our economy has changed, but the American agriculture community remains a vital thread in the fabric of our lives and provides significant value to the economy of Seminole County. Whereas our nation was founded on values of hard work, faith, family, and community, and those values still hold true today for our agricultural community. By providing an abundant supply of safe, high-quality food and fiber, as well as other plants for our homes, landscapes, our agriculture community contributes to a quality of life in our country that is unmatched around the world. And whereas people in the agriculture community do not work alone, farm workers, processors, shippers, truck drivers, inspectors, retailers, and consumers all play an important role in the credible productivity of the nation's farms and ranches. And whereas Florida is home to over 47,000 farms and ranches, with close to 400 of those operations located right here in Seminole County. Whereas agriculture plays a vital role in Florida's economy, ranking as the second largest industry in the state, with more than 1.5 million jobs connected to agricultural, natural resources, and food industries. And whereas agriculture is critical to providing or producing the food needed to support our growing population, and whereas farmers and ranchers face challenges in production such as severe weather events, pests and pathogens, invasive species, supply chain disruptions, and beyond. And whereas, according to the most recent U.S. Census of Agriculture, the average age of a farmer in the United States is 57.5 years old, 58.9 years old in the state of Florida, and there is a strong need for more youth to pursue careers in agriculture to support the industry in the future. And whereas farmers, ranchers, and others in the agriculture industry work together in an environmentally sustainable way to help feed, clothe, shelter, and fuel the world, and whereas National Agriculture Week is a week-long celebration held each year in March to increase the public's awareness of agricultural role in modern society. And whereas on the morning of Friday, March 24, 2023, Seminole County embarked on a journey through agriculture by offering a guided bus tour to 5 local farms. And whereas this full-day event is a wonderful opportunity to meet, support, and learn from Seminole County farmers, now, therefore, it proclaimed that Seminole County Board of County Commissioners do proclaim the week of March 19, 2023 as National Agriculture Week in Seminole County, and encourage all of our citizens to celebrate the importance of agriculture industry by participating in the Seminole County Farm Tour, adopted this 28th day of February 2023.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
And we have Ms. Morgan Pinkerton here from our Extension Service to accept this, and we also will ask some of our farming families to come down. Mr. Holmes, Mrs. Yarborough, if you'd be so kind to come down and join us. Oh, I know I'm a dude. She's got to work that camera.
All right, on my count in 3, 2, 1. Thank you all.
On behalf of Extension Services, I am Shane Michael. I'm the Extension Service Manager, and accepting this on behalf of Dr. Morgan Pinkerton. We do thank you all for your continued support of agriculture. Hopefully you all heard some great feedback in this proclamation, but one thing that I'd like to bring to your attention again, the average age in Florida of our farmers are 58.9, and so bringing up those youth is an important area. And one of the ways that we do that is through our 4-H program here in the county. So I am going to do a shameless plug and invite you all to the Central Florida Fair that is actually starting on Thursday. The first half of the fair will start with the breeding animals, and so we'll have all the youth who are taking the time to build our animal population, and then the second half will be the market animals, where we teach them about the production through market and marketing and sales as well. So thank you so much, and also an invitation out to our farm tour on March 24th. Go to our Eventbrite page and register for the event. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Delarge and then Commissioner Zembauer.
Shane, you got a minute?
Absolutely.
You spoke about the Central Florida Fair. On Sunday, they have the livestock auction, correct?
Yeah, it'll be not this Sunday, but
Following Sunday. What time does that start?
2 o'clock.
I recommend if you want to actually see what it takes to not just raise an animal, but actually get it out there and have people bid on it. These young farmers do a phenomenal job, and the level of care that they do for those animals and actually put them on auction. I recommend you go see it. It is truly, truly amazing. They do a phenomenal job. And also get a number to bid.
Yes.
And bid high, and bid often.
Bid high.
And I would caution you, if you do go to that and you bid to buy, please give a full disclosure to your wife that you're not bidding on it as a pet. My wife was so thrilled that I bought a cow a couple years back at the auction, and She thought I was bringing it home to put it in the pasture and raise it up a little more. I said, no, darling, it's already been raised up. It's never coming here.
Make room in the freezer.
In wrappers. But what I would tell you is, what was not mentioned in this proclamation that some of you have heard me talk about previously that I'm so passionate about is, the agricultural land is disappearing at an unprecedented rate around this entire country, and especially here in Florida, which is problematic. It's a matter of national security that we maintain, our croplands for the future. As you now see, many products are now being imported from South America. Many products, with our citrus problems we've had, we also now are starting to see beef come in from South America. We're also seeing other products that are typically grown by our own citizens here coming in from overseas. We used to be the breadbasket for the entire world, and that's not quite the case anymore. So it's very important that, we keep these spaces, and that's why I'm so adamant with some of our natural lands, when we put those into perpetuity, that we reserve the right to, allow farming and stuff in the future, and we don't be so short-sighted for future generations. As well as, it's very, very telling to the youngsters, as the ages continue to grow, in this industry, to understand that your food does not necessarily come from Publix. They are the distributor and the middleman, but they are not the folks that actually make it happen and on the ground floor. So thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you very much. Our next presentation is from our investment advisor, Scott McIntyre. If you would.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always an awkward walk up here. Okay, so as usual, there's always something that we've got to talk about here this morning. And since the last time I've been here, interest rates fell and interest rates moved higher. And the reason that happened is because we got three major economic reports that were way off base, that were much stronger than anybody had anticipated during the month of January. And I will tell you briefly about them in a second here, but Fed officials looked at that apparently very strong data and indicated through a lot of speeches from a lot of Fed members that they expected to raise rates further than we had thought that they would 3 weeks earlier, and the market has responded with higher yields. And before that data was released, the FOMC did hike the overnight rate by 25 basis points more. That happened on February 1st. And that was the second straight 25 basis point increase. During the press conference, Powell had kind of indicated that the market may potentially have it right. The market was expecting that the Fed would not be as aggressive. And after that happened on the 2nd, the two-year note got down to 4.03, and you might sort of keep that in your back of your mind as we move forward here. So I talked about three reports that came in much hotter. The first one was the employment report for the month of January. It was expected to be 188,000 jobs added payrolls. Turned out it was 517, and there was another 71,000 upward adjustment to the previous 2 months. So basically, it came in triple the number of jobs that were expected to be added to payrolls. And the unemployment rate, which was expected to increase slightly, wound up moving down to the lowest it's been since 1969. And before I leave this, very briefly, I want to tell you that it was an extraordinarily warm January nationwide. In the New England states, it was the warmest it's been in record. It was the second warmest in Pennsylvania and New York. It's the warmest it's ever been in New Jersey, and there's a lot of the population that lives there. Seasonal adjustments that go into this data expect that people are going to hibernate in January and not go out and spend money and not go to restaurants and bars, and they did. So a lot of this data, economists looked at it and said, sure, it's hot, there's not a whole lot we can do about it right now, but we don't think that it is necessarily going to be reflective of job growth. So, and that story actually was somewhat similar. In the other information, inflation wound up, it did retreat on a well, actually, it was hotter on a month-over-month basis than people thought it would be, but it retreated very, very slightly on a year-over-year basis, down from 6.5 to 6.4. A lot of folks thought it would be down below 6, so the optics of that year-over-year headline still being above 6% for 16 straight months also upset the market. And there were some seasonal adjustment factors that went into the inflation as well that a lot of people grappled with. But again, the numbers until the next set of numbers come are what we deal with. This was a hotter inflation number than people thought it would be. And you know, we'll see what happens over the course of the next couple of months. The third in this trifecta of hot data was retail sales, and it's very, very distorted by the pandemic. Unfortunately, I think if we were managing to squash the scale down a little bit, you would see that what happened in January with the year-over-year numbers being as hot as they were was very unprecedented. But the same story happened in retail sales that happened with employment. In other words, the expectation of the seasonal adjustments was that people were going to hibernate during January, and it turned out that they came out and spent because the weather was warmer. There was also a gigantic COLA increase, the largest in history, and that COLA increase took effect in January, so people actually had more money, and they went out and spent it. One more factor in retail sales was that there was fleet sales to rent-a-car companies happen in January. It's a one-off, but that also boosted things. So those three factors drove retail sales up into the highest it had been if you throw out the pandemic in a good 5 decades. And it came really unexpectedly after 2 straight months of negative retail sales. We had negative retail sales in November, December. Both were down by 1.1%, and this most recent retail sales report on the headline was up 1.7. So very, very surprising. The market looked at all 3 of those, which came within a 2-week period after the FOMC meeting, and thought, holy smokes, the economy is growing a lot faster, the labor market is a lot stronger, and inflation is not heading down the way we thought it was going to head down. Now, we could be talking about a completely different story in a couple months or even a month, but January was unusual for a lot of different reasons. And as much as economists would like to discount that and the market would like to discount that, it happened. And this is the 2-year Treasury note yield. And as you can see, after you got to really look at this closely, but after the FOMC meeting, it hit a low intraday of 403, and it climbed after the employment report a lot, and then it climbed after CPI a lot. And this is generally where we are. The market has moderated over the past couple days, and I feel like the market is probably higher than the market would like to be, given what everybody knows. But as an investor, we're all exhausted. We're exhausted in the equity markets. We're exhausted in the bond market. When you buy and then it turns out that yields move higher in a matter of days or weeks, then you're not as inclined to buy tomorrow. And the market as a whole is tired. And, you know, every rate movement is basically an equation, and the equation is buyers and sellers, and right now there's more sellers than there are buyers. Buyers are reluctant. So anyway, the investment choices that we have at this point, the 6-month Treasury right now is pretty high. That has a lot to do with this expectation that there could potentially be a government default at the end of July. So there's a little bit more yield boost associated with treasuries. Personally, I don't think that there is going to be a default. Everything we're hearing from the politicians is that they know that's a problem and they're not going to let it happen. You know, as we roll out forward here, and for those who haven't been following presentations in the past, what I have scratched off are the meetings before. So as you can see from the last meeting, yields have moved higher. The 36-month or the 3-year Treasury, as it were, actually got down to 384 earlier this month. It's quite a bit higher right now. The investment pool yields are higher. That's just a reflection, I think, of the Fed raising rates by 25 basis points. So those are very, very short, liquid funds, and they move higher as the Fed moves higher. The pools, the banks, the qualified public depository bank deposits, they move in lockstep, or at least the 2 banks that are doing business with in large amounts with the county. They move in lockstep with the Fed move. So now the one that most of the money is with is paying 4.75. You can just look at this. I'm not going to go through this. There's a lot of data here. This is the Bloomberg February survey. It was taken in the middle of February. These are 70 U.S. economists. These are their expectations for where yields are going to be and where CPI is going to be and where the employment report is going to be and all of that. So you can generally see that the expectation is that we're at the highs and we're going to move lower. These economists understand that January data was distorted, or they expect that it was distorted. So this is something that you can look at. The expectation is about 60% of economists believe we're going to actually move into a recession next year. If you look at that top line that I have highlighted, that is GDP. So you can see that these economists, on the whole, that's the median forecast, believe that GDP on a quarter-over-quarter annualized basis is going to be less than 0.5% in the first quarter, negative in the second quarter, and negative in the third quarter. These are not Fed economists. These are the Merrill Lynches of the world. These are the primary dealers. These are folks who have enormous research staffs, and this is what they think at this point in time. They could easily be wrong. They've been wrong before. The Fed has been wrong before. This is an unprecedented time for folks who have what they thought were somewhat reliable crystal balls. But nevertheless, at this point in time, that's what the expectation is. So, notes and recommendations. There are a lot of maturities that are coming off at low yields. This actually continues all the way through the summer, which is where you're going to see your primarily where your portfolio yield is going to increase is going to be a result of securities that were bought a year ago. They're going to come off the books at lower yields. What's happening, of course, today is the 28th, so you actually have a couple of securities that are coming off. The first one, I feel like the best option is going to be to move that into Florida Prime Pool to add a little bit of liquidity. There's also some spending needs that the county has, so some of that money will be spent. The other one that comes off, I feel like it makes sense to reinvest that one. What I was looking at was a federal agency in July of 2024, which is paying somewhere around a 5.15. And there's only one major maturity in March. We'll deal with that the next meeting. There's a couple in April. Obviously, we'll deal with those. And then there's a whole flurry that comes during the summer months, again, which are I'm going to be glad to see some of those yields move and leave. Recent investments, the investments that we made since the last meeting, fortunately, we were a long way from those lows, but whenever the 2-year got down to 403 and the 3-year got down to 384, I sort of imagined getting in front of you and feeling really happy that we made the investments we made because yields nosedived, but then they turned back up. These are still solid yields moving out, locking those in, realizing that the county is going to be earning these yields on these investments for some time into the future. And that is it. So relative to other times that I've stood in front of you, the investments that I'm proposing that we make, well, basically today and tomorrow, are going to wind up being pretty thin. And I just feel more comfortable right now adding some liquidity, putting money into the pools and the banks and expecting that those are going to step up as the Fed raises rates over the course of the next couple meetings. So we're always trying to strike a balance here. We're never going to get it quite right, but we're trying to strike a balance and diversify as best we can. So I have a couple more slides, but before we move to those, I need to present a motion.
Madam Chairman.
Okay, let's actually make the motion.
Motion to implement recommendations of our financial advisor based on our report submitted today and recommend the clerk to implement said board recommendations.
Second.
There's a motion and a second from Commissioner Herr. Are there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioner Denelari. Okay, just very briefly, and you guys can look at this. The yield at the end of January for the portfolio was 340. With the securities that are coming off and the security that will be purchased, I expect that it's going to be 366, 367, and there seems to still be ample liquidity. So, and then finally, for you to look at, and I would recommend that just for funds and grants, that you look at the left-hand side and look at where the yield was in January of this past year. It was about a 43, and now it's about a 340. So would have liked for it to be higher, but it all falls into the bottom line. It means that you have money to spend, that the portfolio is producing higher earnings rate, and that's always a good thing. So does anybody have any questions or anything I can go into any more detail on?
Commissioners? No? All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
We
Scott.
appreciate you being
Scott.
here.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Our next presentation is from the Committee on Aging. Their committee chair, Shannon Campbell, is here, and we also... You're not, Shannon. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carrie Longsworth, Community Assistance Division Manager. Before Shannon Campbell, who is the chair, comes up to present the report, I just want to give a quick update. This is something that the Committee on Aging, we meet monthly. It is hosted in the Community Services Department. We have not had a report in the last couple of years. There's not been a lot of activity due to COVID, but the committee has been engaged fully in the last year, and so this is the newest update that they have. And with that, I'll be introducing the chair of the committee, Shannon Campbell.
Thanks, Carrie.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here today. Again, I'm Shannon Campbell, excuse me, of the Committee on Aging, and we wanted to come here today and let our commission know what's been going on and what we see happening in our community with regard to our aging population and the needs of our aging population as we see them in our group. Is that the first slide? Okay. As you can see, and as everyone understands and knows, first of all, I'm not going to read all the slides. I've been to law school, and I personally find that offensive to read slides to you. You can read them. Why does it keep changing? All right, y'all are going to have to help me. I'm technologically challenged. That's right. Please, bear with me. As we all know, our state has a large population of elderly people. Elders, as the law defines it, is over age 65. So that can include a lot more of us than we'd like to think. We are the third most populated state behind Texas and California, and we have a lot of elderly people in our community. Additionally, we have a lot of elderly people moving to our community. Our system has been taxed. As you know, especially during COVID, our healthcare system has been taxed phenomenally. Will you switch to the next slide? I'm just going to ask you guys to help me. Thank you very much. As you can see, the committee was formed in 2007. Once I got involved in the committee, I will tell you, we did a little bit of changing of the committee. As you know, you did vote for some new positions and for some additional positions on the committee. I appreciate you doing that. We need to get more resources on that committee, and that's what we've been educating ourselves on, what resources are available in our community by having presentations given by different organizations, agencies, and businesses for the first half hour of each of our meetings, in order that we can come up with good resources to give to you and provide you the information that you need to make decisions in the future. As you know, our purpose is to provide you input and recommendations. We are not an action committee. We are not here to hold health fairs or anything of that nature. We are here to give you recommendations as to what we see our elder population's needs are currently. Will you switch to the next one? As you can see, our committee members, they're made up of all different walks of life. All of us have a different vested interest in our elder community, and I think all of us do, and that we're all headed in that direction. At least, God willing, we will get to there. Next. Our accomplishments in 2022, I would like to thank Kelly Welch and our staff members, Elizabeth and Rebecca, for helping put all this stuff together. We have created a resource magnet. That was something that was created by the commission or the committee before I became chair. But it was a magnet, 500 magnets created just for the elder population that has all of the emergency resource numbers on it. We did pass out all of those 500 magnets, so we do appreciate that financing and the monies from the county commission in order to do that. We have expanded the committee. Like I said, we brought in some new committee members. That would be 5 more this year. Our outreach, we are doing what we can to increase our outreach from an efficient standpoint. Again, like I said, we're not going to be going to health fairs or anything of that sort, as we are not a action committee. However, we do have a need to get the word out that we have a committee on aging in our community and get more people involved in providing resources and information about what needs we do have and how to address those. With regard to our committee, we have had an amazing outcome, or an amazing attendance is what I'm looking for. People who have been involved in the committee and now have been appointed to the committee take it seriously. So we are, as I said, working to increase our knowledge and expand our expertise in the elder-related areas so we can give you good information. We did a SWOT analysis with Kelly's assistance and looked at what our strengths were as far as our county goes, what our weaknesses are, and we did our planning and our reporting based on that analysis. Go ahead. So as you can see, we had a lot of strengths, a lot of weaknesses, some opportunities, and some threats. If you'll take a look at our strengths, we do have a lot of opportunities for seniors to socialize. So we've got an opportunity for our seniors to get out of their home and engage and have a better quality of life. We do have a large natural section of our community, so that does allow our elders to have places to go out that are not inside a building all day long and enjoy God's creation. We also have a lot of organizations and agencies that are available in our community to benefit our elder population. However, not many people really know about them. So one of our struggles and one of our weaknesses that we did point out on several occasions is that not everybody knows about what they need to know. So you don't know what you don't know until you get there, and that's been the hardest part, I think, for our aging population, is their families and our elders don't know what they're going to need until they get to the place where they need those resources. And then people scramble around trying to find them. Some of the opportunities that we have in our community, we do have a commission. You are looking at increasing the housing opportunities for elders. We did just do a groundbreaking over here in Sanford not too long ago with Commissioner Herr was there. That was a great opportunity for us to have more affordable housing for our senior population. In addition, let's see, I'm trying to point out what are the highlights and the good things. I would like to point out the most difficult part for us as a committee is to not get stuck in the weaknesses and not get stuck in what struggles we have. One of the most difficult parts for me as chairman of this committee has been trying to keep people focused on what we do know and what we can do. We have a lot of weaknesses in our community, and most of them strive around or are related around transportation and housing. Comes up every time, every meeting. I've got an elderly person who is getting removed from their home because their cost of insurance just went up. I've got an elderly person who needs to get to their doctor's appointments and there's no affordable way for them to get there. They're in a wheelchair. Lynx doesn't have it. This company doesn't have it. It costs too much money. So we've got a lot of struggles with regard to housing and transportation. And I think if you go to the next slide, pretty please. If you look at what we have going on here, the common themes that we're struggling with, as I said, communication and information is one of our biggest issues. We know in this day and age, a lot of communication and information is spread via social media and the media in and of itself. We don't have advertisements for most of the agencies that are available and equipped to help our elderly, because they are nonprofit agencies, most of them. We don't have the ability to get the information out to this community, the elder community, at this time, the way things are set up. So one of the ways, or one of the things that we would like to promote the commission do is work on how we can better communicate with our elder population, maybe through newsletters or mailings. I think our elder population is more likely to pick up something out of the mail than they are to open their computer and check what social media says their resources are today. Now, their kids might do so, and that's helpful, but not everybody has kids, and not everybody has kids who care. So with regard to that, we have our community and health services was another portion that we did discuss quite a bit, and that has to do with the services that are available as far as assisted living, our nursing homes. We have a lot of those in our community. We have a growing number of those in our community. However, most of them are so cost prohibitive for regular people that you will see a good portion of the people that are in those facilities. There are a lot of people from out of state. There are a lot of people that have grown up in this community, like the gentleman who was here earlier. They may not be able to afford something that's in their community, so they may have to move to the middle of nowhere in order to find somewhere to thrive or to live the last few years of their lives so that they can afford it. That's something that the commission, I would encourage the commission to look at as well. Again, it goes back to housing and transportation. We've got to be able to have a way for our elders to get to their doctor's appointments, but we also have to have a way for them to live in an area where they can get the care they need and afford it. As I said, we found several themes. We are working to increase the awareness of the community resources the best way that we know how. We are spreading the word, grassroots, so to speak. We've invited numerous companies, numerous businesses, numerous individuals to the meetings in the morning that have the ability to spread the word just because of what they do every day. So we are working to increase our presence and let people in the community know that we exist so that they can get involved in what we're doing and we can better inform you about what's going on in our community. Do you have any questions for me today? I know that was a lot of speak around. Yes, Commissioner Herr?
This question could either be for you or potentially Carrie. How are members assigned to this committee?
Members have been assigned based on what they do. So we have been looking for...
So let me interrupt you just for a minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Not assigned once they're on their committee, but how do members get on to this committee?
That's a good question. At this time, we have been inviting people personally. So, for example, we needed a housing representative, and I happen to know Nina at the Sharing Center, and the Sharing Center is one of the largest organizations and agencies in our community that deals with the homeless population and providing resources for people to become self-sufficient. As a result, I invited Nina to come to our meeting, and she was voted on as a member. We've done the same thing with community members. If anyone on the committee knows a community member who's over age 65 who is interested in serving on a committee meeting or serving on a committee, we invite them to attend. If they'd like to become a member, then our committee looks at them, talks with them, looks over their application, and votes for them to be a member.
Okay, Carrie, do you have anything to add? I saw you starting to stand up.
Yeah. So this is part of the administrative code, so there are certain committees that are outlined, the health industry, elder attorney that Shannon is, the sheriff's office. So those have been identified by the Board of County Commissioners. We did add 5 new positions to that this year. And so we have those positions available. The committee talks to see who do we know. In the committee, we offer them an invitation. If they're interested and accept, then we do bring the application, and the chairman puts it on their report to appoint that person. I believe at this point we have 1 vacancy for a local senior representative, 65 or older.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. And then my next question for Shannon is not for here today, but I do serve on the board at Lynx, and you made a mention of someone not being able to be picked up in a wheelchair, and that service does exist. So how about you communicate with my office about that, and we can make connections at Lynx.
Yes, and it would actually be very helpful if we could get someone from Lynx to present to our organization so that we know what services.
I'll be happy to help with that.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Zembauer?
Thank you. Good point. I was going to bring up the paratransit portion of Lynx and the capability to get that out to you. If course, this is my 5th year here, but I've never seen, but I came across some historic documents that at one time we had a seniors advisory board in place. Do you perceive that's something that would add value and bring value from many aspects? For me, I think it would add some input from the community, what they're really seeing and what their needs really are, and I don't disagree with what you all have come up with. It's a great presentation. And I do believe housing is a big issue. And housing is going to continue to be a big issue as the value of the properties here in our region continue to climb. The bottom line, we're going to end up taxing our elderly right out of their homes, which is problematic, and arguably they may be, some of the best assets we have in our community.
Yep.
So I'd like your understanding or opinion on, do you think that's something of value that if a Citizens Advisory Board was put together, that would work with you all hand in hand? And I think that would help get the word out to different parts of the county, because I know I've had a lot of residents reach out to my office and ask about the emergency access boxes that a lot of communities utilize. You know, there's elderly people in their homes that may have a problem and they can't get out or communicate, but law enforcement and firefighters could go there. There's a box there. They can get right into the home, check on those seniors, those types of things. In the senior centers, yes, we do have some of those in some of our cities, but I've had a lot of folks, especially in my district, which is the unincorporated, rural area, there's really no place, as far as a, quote, senior center or a multi-use center that they could utilize. So I think we have a lot of work to do for our seniors. I mean, we are an aging population. I know I look forward to staying in this community to enjoy my grandchildren, but there will come a day where, quite frankly, I may be taxed right out of my, homestead. So I'd like some input, when you get an opportunity, what your thoughts are about maybe putting a Citizen Advisory Board together for the seniors.
I'd be happy to talk with you about that, Commissioner Zimbauer. One of the struggles that we do have with getting input from seniors is finding those who want to help.
Right, understood.
And with all due respect, please forgive me for saying this, and not just sit in a meeting and complain the whole time.
Understood.
I can only do so much.
Right.
We can only do so much, and I'm not discounting someone's opinions or need to talk. But one of the main things that we struggle with, again, every day is looking at what can we do, what are the good parts. Let's not sit in the mud all day long.
Right.
A senior advisory board would be very helpful. Additionally, I think that would be a very good thing for the commission to encourage, because that would not only get seniors out of their homes to come and be involved, but it would show the county that we do have a group that's dedicated solely for a very large part of our population and watching out for them. They could even be more of an action, quote unquote, committee that could go to the health fairs, because they would be seniors, they would know what's going on. I think that's a very good idea to look into.
Right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? I did hear, I think, an ask of some sort in your presentation related to a newsletter. Is that something that the board would like to give direction to the county manager to work with our team on or further pursue that? Commissioner Zimbauer?
Madam Chair, I would move to ask my fellow commissioners' support, staff doing whatever we can do to communicate to our senior population any assets that are available to them, any programs that are available to them, whether it's, personally, I think it should be on our website. I think we should do numerous outreach through social media, and I think we should coordinate perhaps with our property appraiser's office that maybe we can drop just a little mailer in when the tax things go out.
Is there consensus from the board to give that direction?
So, Madam Chair, the motion would be that the county manager work with the Community Services Department and the Committee on Aging and come up with a game plan to communicate more with the seniors.
Second.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Commissioner, under discussion, Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We all know various elderly people, including ourselves. We're all getting there one day at a time,
Hopefully, yes, sir.
hopefully. I will tell you that in working with some of the elderly, when you do put this newsletter out, please make it simple, please make
Yes.
it direct. I will tell you, there's a lot of misinformation out there that the one that I'm thinking about, the elderly person, hears things and sees things and gets sometimes not confused, but misled
Yeah.
because of the misinformation that's out there. And also make the font
Getting years, isn't that one?
larger.
Font larger? Yes, sir.
Font larger. I mean,
Yes,
it doesn't
sir.
need to be, font 60,
Needs
obviously.
to be legible without glasses.
Well, I mean, just something that's reasonable.
Yes, sir.
You can use the Medicare guidelines for that. It's all spelled out by the federal government for you on how to
That's
do
right.
that.
They've looked into it, done
They
the
have
research.
researched
Thank you, Commissioner Hurd. Yes.
I mean, there's guidelines for that, but please use those guidelines.
Yes,
But,
sir.
I think as we venture out to do this, it needs to be very pointed and to be an asset, not just doing the job, but it needs to be something that's informative for them.
That's what we're striving for, Commissioner. Thank you.
Mr. Malloy, you have something you'd like to share?
Well, I was just going to mention, too, included in that can be our guardianship fraud hotline that we have, and we have a court auditor that just looks over the guardianship cases that come through, and the judges find that very valuable. So there's a toll-free number and email. You can submit things if you see guardianship fraud.
Great.
Very good.
I see lots of great opportunities for brainstorming. There's a motion and a second. We've had discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Zembauer.
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate to ask staff what their thought process is when maybe they can bring something back to us with a date?
Why don't we have the county manager spend a little time talking to the team and then bring it back to us?
Great.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. We really
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
Well done, Sharon.
Our next update, lots of claps in the back. Our next update is on our wellness program and benefits. Ms. Brandolini.
Good morning, Chairman and Commissioners. Christina Brandolini, Chief Administrator of Human Resources. This morning I am joined by Charles Cook, our benefits consultant with Alliant Consulting, and we're going to have an update for you, just kind of where we are with wellness and the last few months since we have moved to Cigna. And then we have some recommendations and an ask for the upcoming wellness program. As you all know, we ended the program expired. Our 5-year program expired. We had an extra year in there because of COVID. So we want to bring forward some recommendations for the next few years out. And before I turn it over to Charles, I did want to just mention, I sent all of you some information yesterday that we have a new wellness coordinator. Adam Clausen is actually with Cigna, and he is going to be dedicated to Seminole County 100% of the time. His office will actually be located at the Five Points Wellness Fitness Center, so he'll be located there in case folks have questions about how to use equipment and things such as that. But really, his intention is to go out to each of the areas and get to know, the different divisions, what their needs are, and hopefully implement some things that will resonate with each of them. So I'm going to turn it over to Charles, and I'll stand by in case there are questions for me.
Good morning, Chairman Lockhart, Commissioners. I didn't know until a little while ago that I'm a mere 3 years and a few months from elderly. So, thank you. This is a recap of where the claims are, the enrollment, with a focus on the wellness program in the transition to Cigna. So I will... This slide shows, since 2018, the total spend down the second column. The third column is the total enrollment of the whole year. The fourth column is the average enrollment, the net total, that would be after stop-loss reimbursements. And then you have the net per employee per month. And this is simply amazing, looking at this time period where we have had from 8 to 12% medical inflation during that time. This is phenomenal, and this is likely a result of your wellness program that requires a physical, that requires people to meet certain biometric standards, or have a reasonable alternative standard on RAS, that is simply really a validation of a plan with the doctor is what that should be. So we have, as a consulting firm, stolen some of this power in refocusing everything on the primary care physician relationship. If the person has that relationship, they will have tests as appropriate, they will be referred to age-appropriate exams, and they will have a place to call as opposed to urgent care or the emergency room, just like we all did when we had a pediatrician. So you have a powerful program. I will make one caveat. There may still be a stop-loss reimbursement for 2022, and that could make that number better. I'm not sure. We are in the process of getting all the reports for that. The next slide is, we changed to Cigna. So there was a long RFP process last year with interviews. So Cigna's 1-1, 22 claims ended below projections with Florida Blue. The 23 projection is below the 22 projection. So for 2023, we kept the budgeted rates, which are used for COBRA and contributions, and the contributions, core contributions remained flat. The caveat here, not a caveat, an additional note, is that the Pharmacy Savings Programs, PCM, is coming into its full second year, and we had 27,000 savings first year, 68. I need big font for to read that slide up there. 68 the next year. I'm going to skip over the plans. You have 4 plans, from a really low deductible to a pretty high deductible to an HSA. This is the enrollment. You can see here that the enrollment is spread out with the highest number in kind of the mid plan. We have a lot of people still in the buy-up, and then you can see the retirees below. One of the interesting things is you have relatively low enrollment in the high deductible health plan. If that plan, across all industries, across all groups, the more education people have about that plan, the more they understand it and its attractiveness. The wellness rate participation. So this, I'm going to have to go to my notes here. You have really high wellness participation. On the bottom left, you have 218 people who have done the reasonable alternative standard form. And that is a process that's handled manually now. We are going to a fully automated process, both to capture the annual physical and the biometrics. And there will be on the website where you do this, how you process the reasonable alternative standard. So the goal would be that, well, obviously there are people who are having that reasonable alternative standard, they're working on their biometrics and hopefully getting healthier. Where we are now, you have to have an annual physical and meet 3 of the 4 biometric criteria, and the period to do that runs through 9/30. So anybody who meets that this year in this strategy, if you meet it for 23, that means you meet it for 24. If you don't meet it for 23, new hire or didn't achieve it, you have from January 1 of 23 to 7/31 of 23. That is, you'll be under Cigna's watch then. Then everybody will be under Cigna to qualify for 25, 3 of 4 of the biometric standards, and it's all captured through Motivate Me, which is their wellness portal, and the deadline is 7/31/24. So we're moving with great ease and grace, if you will, to a 7/31 end date with a 1/1 through 7/31 of this year look back. And then if you aren't on 23, so you get to 24 and then 25, everybody will be on the same cycle. This program, Motivate Me, is visible to people now. They can look through My Cigna. We are trying to get as much activity on My Cigna so they can look at it now. Once this strategy is approved, this will all be implemented, and people will be able to see if they've met their standards on Motivate Me. They will be able to select a regional alternative standard form, and they can upload that themselves. Now, one of the challenges, no matter how automated or unautomated this annual physical tracking is, people go to the doctor and the visit is coded as a sick visit versus a wellness visit. We deal with that all the time. That's a simple issue to correct. And our office, a member can just call our office, and we will get that corrected for them. Below, you'll see there are other incentives that we can add. So Cigna, one of the things that put them near the top, or at the top ultimately, was wellness dollars. So they are funding Adam, and there's money there for other incentives. So HR and Adam and Cigna strategy team will be exploring other incentives to potentially add. Your incentive as a payroll deduction is rock solid. It works, but there will be other things that people can do, whether there's a financial incentive or not. If they, want to lose weight, there's a whole list of items on this slide that is in your presentation, other things that can be done. I do want to focus on this for a minute. Seminole County has set the standards in terms of the biometrics, in terms of blood pressure, cholesterol, so forth. And they became a little more strict over the 5-year plan. Motivate Me will use Cigna's recommended, which is, kind of a national, their research best practice. So now Seminole County, either the board or staff, are out of the business of deciding that standard. So these will be the new standards in Motivate Me. That's the broad overview. What you're doing has worked phenomenally well. We hope this will automate that process, make it easier for employees and their spouses. Any questions?
Commissioners, Commissioner Herr.
I do have questions. I just want to clarify, back on slide 48 and 49 in the book.
I don't have your numbers, so.
It's the wellness strategy qualifying for 2024. Starting with the 2023, where we are and where we're going. And I believe that we would have qualified for 2023 by the work done in 2022. So anything that, so when I look at slide page 49, which starts with qualifying for incentives for 2024, that key word there is achievement for 2023. So I did my stuff in 2022. I qualified for 2023. That is carrying to 2024, and the system is opening up this year for us to qualify for the following.
Yes.
So I know that is what you said. I just wanted to reiterate that because this is a very smooth glide path and has been tried and true in many other not mutual, but clients that we each have.
Yes, thank you for clarifying, because the purpose here was to provide that super smooth, very positively received, people have time to meet Adam, to learn Motivate Me.
And then the next question, just a statement on the sick visit versus the well visit. I appreciate that you're going to be there when something may go awry. I would also say that there is a education program that needs to happen around how that happens and how you at the point of service can positively impact that. And that is, if they're asking you for a co-payment, it is not a well visit. So get it recoded right there on the spot, and it fixes it. And it also creates a more engaged consumer with your doctor's office, and that is as important as being in the doctor's office, is engaging in the care. So if they're asking you for a co-payment, it is not a well visit. Doesn't care what the well visit is. I don't care if it's a well woman, a colonoscopy, I won't go through the gory list of stuff we have to do to ourselves, but if they're asking you for money, it's not a well visit. And that's regardless of whether you're on the HDHP. And then the last point that I would just like you to point out is that we all have access to Motivate Me. You all have access to aggregated reports that don't give PHI. So probably worth talking about.
Yeah, we will not know individual employees or spouses' biometric results. That's part of the goal here, is that all comes out of the claim system, and then there's a report. So, and we hope to automate that payroll does what they do, and nobody's seeing a list of people. Nobody's even seeing the reasonable alternative standard forms. Personally, I'm uncomfortable with like the manual part of that. To your prior comment, like if Andrew Fox was here at 35 years old, he wouldn't have mentioned the fact that a office visit wellness might be coded wrong, because he hadn't done this for 34 years. So we try to think ahead of all the things that might go wrong, and I would love to see employees feel empowered to engage with their doctor much more than they are, and with their doctor's office. So when you break that code, let me know.
Commissioner Delary, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Herber, you done?
I am done,
Okay,
thank you.
Commissioner Delary.
Thank you. Can you verify something, maybe not today, but after we leave here? On the 2023 medical plan enrollment recap, it shows the number of retirees covered. It shows one of the retirees in the high deductible. Normally when you retire and you're not working anymore, so that person, in my mind, is working, because when they're no longer working, you don't qualify for the high deductible.
There are restrictions around Medicare age.
I understand that.
Okay, but somebody, if you're not working, you can put money in. It's
You
not.
do, but you don't get, they just need to understand they don't get the tax,
Right.
they don't get the tax benefit for it.
Right, so they could be in that plan
They could
and
be in
not
the plan.
putting
I just
money
wanna make
in.
sure
I
that
mean,
they
there'd be no-
realize
Yeah, there'd be no
that-
reason to put it in.
That's my point that I'm
Okay.
getting at. I just want to make sure that they're aware of that, whoever that person is.
It's a big premium break.
I understand the premium break, I'm in the plan myself,
Yeah.
but they need to realize that they don't get the tax advantage as well.
Okay,
That's all.
thank you.
Commissioner Zembauer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a way to provide a number of employees that are participating in these help programs?
The additional programs that'll be available through Motivate Me?
Correct.
Yes, I believe so. We can give you a count of that.
I would like to know, I'd like to, if it's possible, to get a ongoing report process that we would know how many employees are actually taking advantage of that.
Yes, we can do that. So part of the strategy is not like, here's everything. You know,
Sure.
we want to get everybody on their annual physical part, and then we want to strategically roll out different things, and hopefully then compare success between what's really people are looking at. Yes.
Yeah, understood. It's important to me to understand some of these additional benefits that are given to us. Are they actually being utilized?
Right.
And to what extent? That will help me greatly as a decision maker. I personally don't make many insurance claims because I don't go to a doctor that's associated with anybody. But that's a whole different bandwidth of employees that may or may not be in the same category. So that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I don't think we have anything else for you this morning, and unless there's anything else that I'm missing, then I think we're good. All right, appreciate it.
Christine,
I'm sorry, I just wanted to cover, so we are all good to move forward with the recommendations for 2024 and 2025.
So moved.
Second.
I don't know if there's a motion necessary, I just want to make sure I have the right direction.
Okay,
Second.
so I heard a motion and I heard a second. All those in favor say, oh,
Cleaner that way.
Commissioner Commissioner Delary was the seconder. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Yep. Votes are always safe, aren't they? I know. You're well, thank you for catching that. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Would it be, for the clerk's benefit, that when we make motions that we state our name? Would that make it easier? Or usually it's no problem?
You'll still be talking over each other.
Okay. Very honest answer. Thank you very much.
Best line of the day.
No, that was fabulous. Thank you, Charity. We're moving on to the county manager's consent agenda. Are there any, we know Any items that anybody wants to pull for discussion? I have one, if no one else has anything. I'd like to pull 17 for to separate discussion.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner
I
Zimmerman?
move to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to pull one.
No.
I'd like to pull 11. Thank you.
I would move to approve 8 through 10, 12 through 16, 18 through 27, as well as constitutional officers consent agenda item 28.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Constantine, number 11.
Thank you. This is only for information. I think the fact of the matter is, I was counting, I think it's something like 16 different properties, or maybe more, maybe a few less, of affordable housing property list for the disposal and use in conjunction with affordable housing purposes. Knowing how difficult it is right now for our citizens with affordable housing, I just wanted to highlight this to say that we are putting these properties on the surplus list, and if I'm not mistaken, Allison, these would then be available for development, and the individuals would have to come in, developers, to qualify to pick up these properties and then be able to build on them if it's affordable housing. I just like a little bit of a highlight for that because, you know, I think this is a great program. I think we all are truly understand the importance of making available affordable housing. All of these are in the Sanford area, so maybe not. I see a shake of head. I thought they all were, but please, would you give a little bit of
Good
information?
Allison Thal, Director for Community Services. I actually have Stacy Smithwick with me. She is my manager for community development. This is Stacy's area of expertise, and she works closely with all of our local developers, specifically for the development of affordable and attainable housing. Let her give you just a little bit of detailed information on these parcels that are on this resolution.
Good morning, Stacy Smithwick, Community Development Division Manager for Community Services. 8 of those are in unincorporated Seminole County. 6 of those are in the city of Sanford. The other 2 are out. They're city limits, but outside of Sanford.
They have Sanford addresses,
They
though.
do, but not all are, within the
Understand.
city, yes.
And could you just go through, excuse me, I'm sorry, could you just go through the process if there is someone out there that would like to come in, you know, develop this property and, you know, for affordable housing, just what they have to do?
Yes, so we're still in the infancy stages of that process. So these lots are put onto our attainable housing land bank by reference of community work, or public works, sorry. And Tricia Smith in their office, she vets them, and then we decide which of those vetted lots we think would be comparable or usable for single-family dwelling units. Most of them are pretty small lots. So once those are on our list, then we have the ability to work with either nonprofit or for-profit developers to build affordable housing on those lots. Now, if it's a nonprofit developer, the intent is that, that is deeded over with an agreement, a mortgage, and a restricted use covenant on the lot. The developers, for-profit developers, we're still kind of discussing that in office, whether, we have them put a financial contribution or pay towards that land because they are for profit essentially. But we still would put a restricted use covenant on that and a lien on it as well. We did recently do this with 6 lots in Midway, and we did have an agreement with that developer that they had up to 3 years, I believe, to start development on those. Otherwise, we could pull those lots back into our land bank. So we would do that as well.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, if there's no other, well, it's not really a question. I wanted to highlight it because I think it's very important we all understand attainable, affordable workforce, how important it is to get available. And we wanted to show, there's the local governments, all local governments have shown a lot of different opportunities to expand the ability for affordable housing. And I just want to show we're putting money where our mouth is. We're giving property that is ours available for profit, nonprofit, to build those affordable housing. The only thing I would just suggest is maybe we condense that time period. 3 years seems to be a long time for them to do something with it. Outside of that, I move approval.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Ms. Flick. Do we have any members of the public who wanted to speak on the consent agenda? Do you have any forms for that? Okay, I neglected to. And no one jumped out of their seat to tell me that I missed it, so I need your prompting.
We have a speaker's form?
Yes, that's not for the consent agenda, though. Yeah, but thank you. I appreciate that. All right, so we'll just let the record reflect that there was no one that wanted to speak on any of the consent agenda items. Item number 17 is, I asked to have that pulled for discussion. This was, and I'm going to do a little history if I can, Rick, just to, years ago, I believe it was right after Commissioner Zembauer and I joined this board, we as a board decided to no longer give funds to United Arts, but instead have our staff manage those funds to perpetuate art programs throughout our community in-house. And I think that was a great decision. This board approved criteria for that, and I've noticed over this last 2 years, there's one item that has been included that causes me a little pause, and that's for helping to fund for a high school band booster program. And before the band parents get mad at me, I love all the instruments, I love band kids, but the school district has a very robust fundraising program and grant opportunity for all of their high school band programs. So I'm a little concerned that we have now 2 years in a row contributed to the same high school for their band program. I don't believe that this was the intent. I think it was to continue to get arts out into the greater community at large. That's my personal opinion. I just wanted to bring it up to the board to see if we wanted to give some direction to the county manager and to our team on this. And Rick, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds giving all that background.
No, not at all. Again, for the record, Richter, Leisure Services Director, and you are spot on with the comments. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Commissioner Herr?
So I actually served as the chair of the fundraising arm of Seminole County Public Schools twice and served on that board for in excess of 20 years. And I would tell you, I made notes about this item in my board book. I would tell you that this is a nominal gift compared to the need, and the ability to come to the county for funding may actually hurt fundraising capabilities within that organization. And so this jumped out at me as well. So I appreciate the history lesson, and it gives me concern as well.
Commissioner Delary and then Commissioner Constantine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can understand your concerns, but these students, from what reading in the information, they're going to be going out into the public to providing different avenues, providing music to the community, correct?
That's correct.
That's one of the reasons why I'm okay with this. If we're going to change the process, I think we should change it today. I think that we should change the process if we're going to do that so they know going into it for the following year, not this year. That's just my opinion. Chair, Commissioners.
Yeah, that's, this, I believe I questioned it last year because it was about the same amount, and it was for a tuba. And when I was having my staff meeting, I said, are we buying another tuba? And it wasn't. But the fact of it, I asked, what about the other, 10 high schools in Seminole County? And the answer was they didn't ask for it. So the fact of the matter is that, okay, I do believe that maybe we should look at the process and see whether this is the way we want to continue. Under the current process, they've qualified, they've gotten approved, and I would support them getting the grant, but I do believe that we may want to look at the process and see just where it is. If I was, booster of Lyman or Lake Mary or Lake Brantley, I'd be jumping in and doing it, but they seem not to, and only Haggerty. So, I'm okay with it, but I do believe we may want to look at the process for next year.
Commissioner Zumbauer.
Thank you very much. As a Haggerty High School
graduate
band booster, no, my daughter was in the inaugural class at Haggerty, and I will tell you as a parent that helped with the band, ran the band members all over the state. Here's the reality. In my own private company, donating monies and services to the band as well as many others do. Until you're on the ground floor and understand, agreed that the school board has the capability to do certain things, and we always do fundraisers, whether it's a car wash or whether it's asking for grant monies. You'd be shocked to understand what, by example, a baritone costs, $12,000. You'd be shocked to understand that there are children in our community that their family, if they have a family that's fully intact, don't have the wherewithal financially and are often not able to participate in such activities or be able to get an instrument. And I think we should do everything we can, it's a very nominal amount, to foster and be able to supply to these children the capability of something they otherwise would not be able to participate in. In the grand scheme of things of our annual budget, this is, personally, I don't think it's even worth discussing. I understand the theory, I understand, but we should be working with all our community partners to help and find a path, whether it's us go out and help them raise money. I think we all would be agreeable to that, the school board, but if you don't see on the ground floor, and I know Commissioner Lockhart, you've been with the school system for many years, and you probably have very similar stories that you're aware of with some of the parents and some of the students, but anything we can foster to further the arts, I think is for the amount of money we're talking, is quite frankly not even worth having the conversation in my world, but I understand the concern. I will be supporting this, and I would support if other schools want to make that ask at a future time, supporting that as well. The arts are something that, especially music programs in these schools, that quite frankly aren't funded well enough to start with at the school level, in my opinion. So, for what it's worth.
Okay.
I think we do understand the need. Where I'm struggling is, are we the resource for this? And what I'm hearing is a mixed bag, because I think we may not be the resource. I completely agree that not funding something now after the funding notice has gone out is super creepy, and I don't want to be part of that. But we have to have a conversation about how big this bucket could get. We're not talking about a $7,000 expenditure. We're talking about 9 high schools, plus all the middle schools, because they all have bands, and all of the elementary schools that are magnet programs that have bands, and they buy violins for all the elementary school kids, and the visual arts, because that's a whole separate request that's going to come. This is a Pandora's box that if we're willing to go there, then just be prepared that what we're putting on our staff is a decision-making process, having sat on that foundation board and made decisions about what we're going to fund in the district and what we're not going to fund, is significant, not only from the cost, but from the workload perspective, and that means we're pulling it from somewhere else. So from my perspective, I would actually be willing to make the motion to fund for this year and then have staff come back to us with what they think is viable based on what we heard today in terms of how we either perpetuate this or don't perpetuate it.
Make a second and ready for some further discussion.
I'd like to ask Mr. Gray to weigh in.
Thank you. And I know if this has come up in a couple of the briefings that I have had in my first week here. And so I have gotten with staff, we're going to look at that criteria, and I was just going to suggest just that. I know the chairman and I talked about this yesterday. Let us look at that criteria and bring back to you for your consideration for how we are going to distribute those funds next year, if that's good.
Great. Motion and a second under discussion. Commissioner Delary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The value, and I think we all have valid points, but for me, the value is that these students are actually going out into the community, sharing their talents with the community. That's how they qualify. To me, there is value there. So I wanted to make sure that I express that, because it actually is not just listening to the music, but showing actually individuals about what can be done, what is available, and about how important the arts are. So, thank you.
Commissioner Zembauer.
I'm not, of course, going to, just a suggestion, and I know staff will hopefully dig down through the recommendations and bring something back to us. But I find that, we should consider if we're going to do this and continue to do this, some kind of matching funds or percentage of matching funds, so there's skin in the game from all parties, and it's just not an ask. I think what I'm hearing from some of my fellow commissioners is we want them to go out and do their due diligence and try to raise their own funding, not us be the sole source or a major source of that income. So maybe there's some kind of tiered program of matching dollars or percentage of or something that would be considered. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. We had discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Durr and Mr. Gray, are you clear on what we're doing next?
Yes.
Okay.
We're good. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. We appreciate very much the time and effort that you put into administering this program. All right, our next item. Moving to our regular agenda, item number 29, presented by Mary Robinson.
Good morning, Mary Robinson with Planning and Development. Item 29 on your agenda is a request for a special event permit for the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra concert at 400 Woodbridge Road within the Springs Association Recreation Area. The concert will be held Saturday, April 1, 2023, with a rain-out date to be Sunday, April 2nd, 2023. The Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra will be performing the music of the Beatles with guest artist Classical Mystery Tour. The applicant shall comply with the site plan and special event permit contained in your agenda. The hours will be between 5 and 10 p.m. Estimated attendance is 2,500 guests. And the applicant has secured off-premise parking, and the event will employ off-duty sheriff personnel to provide security and traffic control. Staff recommends the board approve the special event permit for the Orlando Philharmonic Orchestra with the conditions of approval contained in the permit. This concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available, and also Mr. Carl Reddick is in attendance. He represents the concert.
Commissioner Constance.
Madam Chair, I think also the day before Friday, they do an event for just the citizens of the
It's a dress
Springs.
rehearsal.
Yeah, it's a dress rehearsal with the people of the Springs are invited. This is another event that I don't know if any of you have ever, but it's in my, I've never heard a peep about a problem. I've only heard, this is another great cultural event that makes Seminole County so special. And I look forward to it every year. And right now, the music of the Beatles, I'm really looking forward to it. So I would move approval.
Second.
Ms. Beach, do we have anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
No, ma'am.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
item number 30, and I'm going to look to the county manager. I believe the recommendation on this has changed.
Yes.
Before we take public comment, when I know that Mr. Kirchhoff is here and would like to address us on this, we do want to just make sure for the record that we've clarified that the recommendation itself has changed.
Correct, it has, and we have submitted that, and we have, our finance team is going to make that presentation.
Okay, fantastic. Ms. Bailey Brown?
Good morning. Lori Bailey Brown, Resource Management Director. This item is for the authorization of the Tax Collector's Office to publish the delinquent tax advertisement in the Orlando Sentinel. That recommendation has been changed, as you mentioned, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Just to be clear, advertisements are listed as direct pay items in the Seminole County purchasing policy, and that purchasing policy does not apply to direct pay items. It has been the practice of Resource Management to obtain quotes from the Orlando Sentinel and the Sanford Herald and recommend for board approval the lowest cost provider of the legal advertisement. On December 22nd, we emailed to the Sanford Herald and the Orlando Sentinel asking for quotes by January 4th. This was in no way a deadline or a sealed bid solicitation. It was simply to gather information timely to provide to the board for approval for the advertisement in April. We received the quotes on the 3rd of January from the Herald and on the 5th from the Sentinel. The Sentinel's quote received on the 5th was about half of the prior year's quotes, so follow-up was made to inquire as to why it was so much less. The Sentinel realized that insertion costs were not included and increased their original quote to the $33,543 on the 6th of January to include insertion costs. With changes made to the Florida statute recently, specifically 197.402, changing the statute language from selecting the newspaper to the board making such notice as required in Chapter 50, we've amended our recommendation from authorizing the tax collector to publish in a specific newspaper to recommending the board authorize staff to deliver the quotes to the tax collector to advertise the delinquent taxes as provided in Chapter 50. This is similar to our neighbors, Lake and Orange County, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Bailey Brown? All right. Ms. Beach, I believe we have someone here that would like to speak.
We do. Bill Kirchhoff.
All right. Mr. Kirchhoff, if you would state your name and address for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes.
I'm Bill Kirchhoff, the Sanford Herald. I live in Sanford, Florida, 2044 Hibiscus Court, Sanford. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I appreciate your continuing this item that gave us a chance to see what had happened. And what had happened was that, as you see, is that the Sentinel bid an amount, and the staff talked to them, and they raised their amount. They were given the chance to raise their amount to the amount that you see. My publisher has asked me to hand this out to you if I can.
If you'd hand it to the clerk.
If you would hand those out to them. The Sentinel was given the opportunity to correct their bid. And my publisher has looked at our bid, and she came home from Richmond, Virginia, where she had been, and in an emergency, she put in the bid. She says that the bid was erroneous. It was using figures from several years ago, and so she wanted to correct her bid. So where the Sentinel was allowed to raise their bid, we would like to have this submitted so that we can lower our bid under the same privileges that the Sentinel had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirchhoff. So, Commissioners, we're looking for a motion on the recommendation to forward the quotes to the tax collector. Mr. Zembauer.
I would make the motion to have staff continue to work on this and forward to the tax collector for them to take the appropriate action to advertise this in the appropriate publications.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, this would also include the document that was just given to us, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Before we move on to county manager and county attorney briefings, I do want to officially welcome Darren Gray to Seminole County. Today is your first board meeting. We're so happy to have you, and I just want to give you an opportunity, if you'd like, before you move into your briefing, to say hello.
Thank you. It's like old hat for me. Been doing this for a long time, but no, I am so excited to be here. It's my first week. So the staff and you all have welcomed me so much, so I really appreciate that. They're taking me everywhere. I just like, take me, when I come in, I just point me in the right direction. But I had great meetings with our staff last week. I'm starting one-on-ones with each of them this week and actually going out to their locations. So I'm really excited about that. Looking forward to working with this board, but just equally as important, I'm really looking forward to working with the citizens of Seminole County and the business owners here. I said this to someone last week. I said, it took me a little while to figure out where to go, but I'm in the right place. I feel it, and I cannot wait to do great things with you all and with the staff here and to see where we're going to go next. So I appreciate the welcome, and I'm, again, excited to be here and ready to get to work. So
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. County attorney briefing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chairman. For the record, Paul Chipok, Deputy County Attorney. I have two items today. The first item, I'm going to be requesting a shade meeting. At the Board of County Commissioners meeting of March 14, 2023, meeting, the county attorney will be requesting a closed attorney-client meeting pursuant to Section 286.0118 Florida statutes. The closed meeting is estimated to last for an hour and will start at approximately 2 p.m. in the afternoon. The purpose of the meeting will be limited to a strategy session related to litigation expenses in the case of Seminole County versus Brandon Wellesley Blake, case number 2022-CC-004794. The meeting will be recorded by a certified court reporter. Attending the meeting will be all the members of the Board of County Commissioners, the county attorneys, Brian Applegate, Paul Chipok, Desiree Elliott, and Lynn Porter Carlton, and the county manager, Darren Gray. At the conclusion of the meeting, the Board of County Commissioners will reopen the regular meeting with an announcement that the closed session has been terminated. Pursuant to Florida law, a transcript of the attorney-client closed session will remain sealed until the conclusion of the litigation. And the Blake case is the dog possession case. Right. We're trying to get custody of the dogs that were taken originally into evidence and are now being held in our Animal Services Division.
Do you need any action from us on that, or you're just notifying everyone?
I'm just notifying you that that will be occurring on the March 14th.
Got it. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
The second item is an update on an item that you'd previously asked about, and in regards to 120 South Crystal View, and the Senior Assistant Desmond Morrell will be giving you a quick briefing on that. Desmond?
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Desmond Morrell, Senior Assistant County Attorney. Commissioners, over the last 2 weeks, myself and a colleague of mine, Gerlin Kahn, we've been meeting with you all individually to provide you with updates on a particular code enforcement case. The exact case number is 1694 CEB, and it's in reference to 120 South Crystal View. This property is located in District 4, and it's dealing with a series of code enforcement issues. issues that have also spiraled over into, I guess, some issues with the individual who is residing there. Commissioners, as we discussed in our independent briefings, there are several tools in our toolbox that we are considering when trying to figure out the best remedy or solution for this issue. We have neighbors complaining, and generally for us, we want to ensure that, all of our neighbors and our residents, they maintain a good order for their particular property. We want to ensure that they're good stewards and that they're not interfering with their neighbors' ability to enjoy their property as well. So with that said, we've been toiling over this issue. We've reached out to a myriad of individuals, including the Sheriff's Office, our Community Services Department, Legal Aid, the Health Department, and most recently, we were able to get in contact with an attorney who has worked with the family in the past. Yesterday around 4:30 p.m., I did have a solid conversation with that attorney. His name is Attorney Joe Freen, and he has indicated for the first time that he will represent the family in this particular matter. Before, he was representing them in non-affiliated cases. So with that being said, Commissioners, I respectfully ask that you all give us the opportunity, maybe 60 days, to continue to conference with this attorney, perhaps meet with the heirs of this particular home, to see what sort of remedies are available here. I know that several of you had questions or suggestions as we were going through this process, but I think these conversations can be a little bit more fruitful now that we have an attorney who can kind of serve as a middle person for the communication purposes and to realistically assess what can be done to address this particular issue. So if you all are agreeable to that, I think that may be probably the best course of action moving forward. Commissioner Zimbauer? Go.
Commissioner Zimbauer.
Madam Chair, thank you.
You're welcome. That's all right.
Good to see you here. Thank
Likewise.
you. This is your district.
It is.
I know this, we've seen this before. What is your sense with the public? Have they had enough? I think the answer is yes. Do you sense that 60 days is a bridge too far? And I'll preface that with saying maybe it takes 60 days to get to some kind of close resolution plan, but I don't know that it's going to take 60 days to have valid conversation with an attorney to find out where you're ultimately headed. In other words, I'm not so inclined to go 60 days. I would go maybe 30 days to get into conversation and communication with this attorney to truly find out whether the individual's really going to be representing the family or the individual in there and what that path looks like and a plan to do so. I'm not so inclined to wait 60 days to say, well, we couldn't get anything worked out and the attorney's no longer representing the family. But I'll defer to Commissioner Lockhart as the district commissioner as what her thoughts are, because I'm sure her phone's been ringing off the hook for a while.
Thank you. This has been a long, very long, ongoing, very complicated situation because the home has not been, the estate has not been probated. The home is not under homestead. There's a family member that has been essentially squatting in the property for many, many years. And there's no electricity, no running water. It is a health hazard in the sense that there are rats that have taken up residence and are visiting neighboring properties. Because there is no water, the lake that is behind the home is being used for a variety of purposes that I'll leave you to your imagination to determine what those may be. So it has spiraled out of control. I think it is encouraging that there is an attorney that may be willing to engage in conversations. I think if we have if we give Desmond and his team the opportunity to have 30 days, I think is a reasonable time to bring back to us what their recommendation is. It may be that even when an agreement is made, we may have to pivot at some point. And so I'd like to keep that as an option, recognizing that this is a very unique, complicated situation.
Well, Madam Understood. And I suspect based on what the District Commissioner has indicated, and the problems to be that we've hashed. With power and the living conditions that are going on over there, I think, in my mind, that the 30 days, there should be some candid conversation with the attorneys of, are they going to be able to get power back on? Are they going to at least do some cleanup or those types of things to show some goodwill to the community? And if the answer pretty quick is the attorney's not capable of getting to that point, it ends up being a probate thing and calling it the day, then maybe 30 days could be too long. So again, I'll defer to the District Commissioner on what she sees best.
I think a maximum of 30 days, and depending on how the conversations go, of course, it could be brought back to us sooner. We would not have any problem with it being brought back to us sooner. You have a property issue and you have a people issue. And so we want very much, I think, for the person who's residing in the home to get the services that they need, because this is a human being that's living in our community that needs a safe place to live and does need some assistance. So there's that human element, that aspect that's going on, while at the same time we have a structure that is absolutely out of control. So there are two things I think that we're trying to do there. So
I would move a motion that we allow the county attorney's office to work with the individual and their attorney over the next 30 days and report back to us an affirmative action plan as we move forward, as well as if something happens in between, to report to the District Commissioner, understanding what's going on.
Second.
motion and a second. Commissioner Constantine?
It's okay.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Nothing further from the county attorney's office at this point.
Okay. Is there anything else from your team?
No, ma'am.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So with that, we will recess until 1:30. It is 5 of 11.
Okay.
Is that clock right?
Yes.
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 Fabulous. Y'all have a lovely lunch. We'll see you at 1:30.